Why did New Zealand keep its Dutch name while Australia didn't, despite both being British colonies? In the early 17th century, the first European explorers reached southern Oceania, spending decades exploring future Australia before a certain Dutchman Abel Tasman arrived in 1642. He explored what would become Tasmania before traveling east, calling the islands of today's New Zealand Statenland after the States General of the Netherlands, also because he thought it may have been connected to another island of the same name discovered 2 decades earlier. 2 years later, he returned to Australia, naming it New Holland after the Netherlands' wealthiest region. Shortly after, Dutch cartographers changed the name of Statenland to Nova Zeelandia in Latin, named after the province of Zeeland back home, which means sea land or a low coastal region, a name that matches the two islands. By the late 18th century, the region saw some minor European settlements, followed by the formal creation of the penal colony of New South Wales in 1788, as Britain looked for a new one following the American Revolution. Regardless, New Holland was still used to refer to the island as a whole, and for decades, both New South Wales and New Zealand saw increased European settlement, Christian missionaries, as well as conflict with native peoples. By 1840, the colony of New Zealand was officially formed, all while New South Wales gradually expanded its territory and new colonies were created on the same island. Over time, the name New Holland died out, formally becoming Australia in 1824, taking the same name when the colonies united into a country in 1901. New Zealand, on the other hand, kept its Dutch name. But why? Well, Australia was not just a name created by the British. Europeans had long speculated about a large continent to the south of the globe, called Terra Australis, or Land of the South in Latin. Despite not knowing for certain about its existence for centuries, some maps from as early as the 5th century still featured a Terra Australis, based on the hypothesis that continents in the northern hemisphere would be balanced by the south. Thus, when the British established their colony in the late 18th century, botanists George Shaw and James Smith called the island a continent, using the names Australia, Australasia, and New Holland. The name was subsequently pushed by explorer Matthew Flinders, who used the name Terra Australis in his manuscript, encouraged to do so because the name would be more familiar to the public. After all, he believed no other detached body of land of similar size would be found in the southern hemisphere, making the name of the continent accurate. Simplifying it to Australia just made it more agreeable to the ear, which facilitated its use in everyday language. Of course, this was before Europeans landed in Antarctica in 1895, a much larger landmass. But by this point, the name Australia for the smaller continent was already established. New Zealand, on the other hand, simply wasn't changed because it wasn't necessary nor desired. Although the specifics behind this aren't fully clear, it seems to stem from the fact that New Zealand was already commonly used. In fact, the 1840 Royal Charter created names for the colony's administrative divisions, such as New Ulster, New Munster, and New Leinster, but they did not stick, and changed in just over a decade. Overall, New Zealand kept its Dutch name while Australia didn't for a simple reason. Australia was larger, seen as familiar to the speculated continent of Terra Australis. The name was gradually used by locals alongside the names of each individual colony, making it easier to adopt. New Zealand, on the other hand, quite simply stuck over time, with attempts to change it never really gaining traction.